And we have wonderful guests here with us today. First, we have Dr. John Seago, who's the president of Texas Right to Life. We have Mr. Tim Von Dohlen, who's a longtime warrior in the pro-life movement who founded and started the John Paul II Life Center, which does so much great work on protecting the life of the preborn, but also helping with other issues as well. And I believe it's the largest pregnancy resource center and medical center on life issues in our state, actually. And last but not least, we have Stephanie Rankin, a good friend of Texas Values who has worked with several issues with us in the past, but she is now the director of Trotter House. You may remember Trotter House being with Lori DeVillas, and what's very unique about one of their campuses is that they're on the campus of the University of Texas serving college women there. Well, I know you have read their bios and you've gotten acquainted with them on paper, but I wanted to start going from Dr. Seago to Mr. Von Dohlen and to Stephanie for you to just talk a little bit about your role in the pro-life movement.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. Mary Elizabeth, thank you all for being here. Texas Values is a great partner to have for Texas Right to Life, my organization. We partner and work together on a lot of different things, from legal filings to strategies in the Capitol. So it's great to be here with y'all. So I serve as the president of Texas Right to Life. I served as our legislative director for 11 years, working on our agenda in the Capitol, working on pro-life legislation, and the Lord has been faithful here in Texas. The Lord has really delivered our movement significant victories. I was reflecting back in 1999, our movement was celebrating its first major pro-life victory, was passing parental notification. Parental notification is such a common sense policy now that we expect even blue states to have it. Just the idea that a parent would be notified that their minor, that their child is getting an abortion. That's so baseline common sense. But in 1999, here in Texas, they were celebrating it as the monumental victory, the first major piece of pro-life legislation that passed. And so I come standing on the shoulder of giants that the Lord has used a lot of great leaders. Tim is definitely one of them who have faithfully worked in pro-life area. And so now we have great victories to celebrate. Texas Right to Life, we kind of see, our role is, we're in a unique position. I have friends in other states running organizations in Louisiana, Oklahoma, Ohio. These other states have a completely different fight on their hand. They are fighting to keep pro-abortion initiatives off their ballots. They're trying to make sure that their constitutions don't get pro-abortion language put in them. Even our friends in Louisiana are fighting tooth and nail to keep exceptions from passing. We don't have that problem here in Texas. Yes, it's great. But we have a responsibility to push in, to move forward, not just to play defense. In Texas Right to Life, we want to work on that. We want to attack some of the dangerous strategies and tactics from the enemy that we're seeing. We want to fight illegal abortions because illegal abortions are happening in Texas, and we'll hear more about that. But I just want to see at Texas Right to Life, we're convinced we need to be leading, not just playing defense, but going after the enemy, because the enemy has adapted in the last 2 years. They've adopted dangerous strategies, and we, Texas, needs to be leading the way on fighting those back.
Mr. Von Dohlen, tell us more about your history in the pro-life movement and more about the JPII Center.
Thank you so much. Haven't had much trouble hearing me in years past, so I think we'll be okay today. It's a great honor to be with you today. Wonderful to be with our panelists. We're in a very unique time, and we have to really focus on where we go for the future. I want to step back in time just a little bit. The John Paul II Life Center has been involved in operating. We're in our 14th year. And our mission is quite unique. Let's put that first slide up. I think this will help you to understand that we are a multifaceted organization. We have two 501c3 entities, the blue and the purple. Our center operates in a way that we hear other people tell us that the people that have come there and they're abortion vulnerable, they tell others and they tell us as they're leaving, I've never been treated that way with love, respect, and dignity before. And I think that's one of the essential things that we've got to do. You're going to hear me talk a little bit later about the importance of motherhood and the importance of the woman and how we've failed to adequately recognize in Texas the value of womanhood. You'll see on the right-hand side is the JPII clinic. And then the third darker blue image, we use some very technologically advanced methods to reach women in this difficult time now that we're facing chemical abortion as a threat. So let's go to the second slide. The second one it's actually the third slide. Let's go to the second one, please. This will show you the services that the John Paul II Life Center and JPII Clinic deliver. We've been fortunate to save over 2,000 babies' lives. We have over 300 women who were told that they could not conceive, that now, using all natural methods, have at least one, some up to their third child. And what we're actually heading toward now, and let's go to the third slide, is doing a focus on education, not just in Austin, Texas, but across the nation. And so we have developed what we call a glimpse inside. We heard during the conference yesterday people talking about there's still those who disbelieve or provide misinformation about what's happening in the womb. We've developed 4 short videos led by our 2 physicians that then describe from conception to birth what takes place. And this will be a subscription type service, and we anticipate having this in over 1,000 schools probably by next September. And this will be both in Catholic schools, it will be in Christian schools, it will also be, we hope, in secular institutions. And so we think this is the future. We have to change what happened over these last 50 years, where they've taken to make things that are good bad and things that we say are truth to where they've captured it and made it something that is not truthful. So when you say abortion is health care, we know that's not true. When you say pregnancy is a disease, we know that's not true. And so our big goal is for our young people to understand what is in fact happening and to create, through a program like this, for young men to understand they have a role. And they're already telling us, because we've been modeling this for testing it for about 9 years now, and a pastor at one of the churches tells us that the young men, as they grow older, they say, well, we have a role to play in this. We need to respect women. And so when we can change that attitude, then we will be moving forward. And so we'll take up some other things here in a bit, but that's what the John Paul II Life Center is all about, both here and across the United States.
Yes, and Stephanie, talk about the work that you do at Trotter House.
Well, in the body of Christ, we are the arms of compassion. Trotter House is a group of pregnancy resource centers. We have locations at the University of Texas, as Mary Elizabeth mentioned, in Cedar Park and in Liberty Hill. And our mission is to offer help, healing, and hope to every man, woman, and child with the courage to walk through the doors of one of our centers. We meet women who've been sex trafficked. We meet women in unplanned pregnancy. We meet women that had an abortion 40 years ago and have never recovered from that. We meet men that need to know how to be fathers, as you were mentioning. We help train them. We offer life skills classes. pregnancy tests, limited sonograms, boutiques in all of our centers. We try to meet their physical needs, whatever their need may be today, but the goal is, through one-on-one advocacy, to minister to their emotional and spiritual need as well, so that we might encourage and enable them to thrive and to live life abundant for all of the days to come. That when they choose life for that baby, they know the value of themselves as well, that they can go forward and be a healthy and whole mother. So that's the work that we do at Trotter House. We serve the family unit as a whole. We love each and every one of our clients, whatever they may bring, whatever is in their past, whatever they find themselves in today. We wrap the arms of compassion around them and help them through.
Wonderful. So the title of this panel, I believe, is, what do we do now that Roe has been overturned? And a lot of people, we're seeing a lot of various interest. We're seeing some people saying that there are fewer people on the sidewalk praying. We're seeing some people claiming victory, and I believe there were claims of that yesterday. But Dr. John Seago, first of all, can you talk about legally what this means that Roe versus Wade has been overturned, and then we'll go into more of the practical sense.
Yeah, so, the Dobbs decision said that the question on abortion is now up to citizens and their elected representatives. It doesn't say states, it says citizens and their elected representatives, which could be state or could be federal. And so my organization, we do call for federal protections. We think that there is some kind of common sense protections that we should insist Congress work on. But Dobbs returned that question to the legislators, whether they're state and federal. And so we see in Texas, we had a strong bill that went into effect after the Dobbs decision that makes every single elective abortion illegal with no exceptions. There is language about medical emergencies in there, and there's been a lot of disinformation about that I'm sure y'all have seen as well. But in Texas, we protect every single human being from the violence of elective abortion in law, and that's something to celebrate. And so whenever we look at where we are, that's what the law is. The law is strong. There was legislation filed by Democrats to add exceptions, very vague health of the mother language, and remember that health definition. When the Democrats use health, they mean social health, they mean financial health, they mean mental health. And so, huge loopholes that they're trying to put in the laws, but thankfully our Republicans have not gone that route. We did have some Republicans who did announce that they wanted to put exceptions into law. My organization withdrew our endorsement from those individuals, called them out on that, how that is kind of missing, pro-life 101 means every human being, no matter the circumstances, no matter that they have to be protected. And so I don't care what party that you're from. If you don't want to protect the most vulnerable children among us, then we can't support you. And so that's a huge issue. Thankfully, we have identified about a dozen Republicans in Austin that would vote against pro-life legislation, would vote for those exceptions. Thankfully, they didn't do anything this session. And so legally, still very strong. What we're paying attention to and what we've seen, what you'll hear from on the front lines is illegal abortions and where those are showing up. And I know that Tim and Stephanie have some really good, firsthand knowledge of what that ugliness and what the enemy is doing at that level.
Yes, Mr. Van Dohlen, can you talk more on that and expand on that, where some of the evilness of the new ways that they're trying to target women and babies with abortion?
Well, I want to start first by talking about womanhood a little bit, because this, I think, is something that's going to actually come up in the special session. We actually had a provision that was a resolution that would have placed on the Capitol grounds a monument to mother and child. And Texas would be the first state to have this, and we hope once we have it here, it can go across the country, certainly to the non-abortion states, and hopefully all the states eventually. But we think this is a symbolism that's extremely important, and we as conservatives, I think, have been inadequately expressive about the importance of womanhood. And there were some good things done with SB 24 this past session that you were really involved in, I know, and the help that we got with the Texas Pregnancy Care Network. But I think that the governors indicated that while this passed in the regular session in the Senate 20-10, it got over in the House, passed out of the House committee, and died in the Calendars Committee. The governor's indicated to me that he wants to see this passed in the special session. So I hope you'll watch for that. I think it's an important visual step that we can show, as the words of our patron says, to be not afraid. So I think that's important. And then to talk a little bit about one of the things John mentioned. On the very day of the Dobbs decision, the ACGME, which is the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education, came out with a change in their regulations that certify each medical school, not just in Texas, but in the entire United States. And they're the ones who put a provision forward that said that all OB-GYN young doctors and family practice physicians must perform a surgical abortion. Well, we know that there is a right of protection of conscience and also of religion in the Constitution. But even with that, there are ways that they discriminate against these young doctors. Well, what the ACGME did, they said, well, even if you're a non-abortion state like Texas, you still have to send those young physicians, medical residents, out of state and pay for them to go and perform a surgical abortion. And so in Texas, at least here in Austin, they're sending these young doctors to California to perform surgical abortions still. Well, that is just flat wrong. It's wrong under what they call the Coach Snow Amendment. It's wrong under Texas law that now prohibits abortion in Texas. And we think that there ought to be legislation where Texas would adopt, as a part of its statutes, the federal Coach Snow Amendment, which we should be obligated on anyway, pursuant to a Texas Attorney General's opinion. So I think this is one of the ways where we can really assist for the future, because if we don't do something to change the direction of the way the medical profession is going, ACOG, which is the American Association of OB-GYNs, just this past month came out with a statement saying that they wanted to have abortion up until birth. Now, that is horrendous for the Doctors Association to be saying that. So we've got to, in Texas, lead the way, as we do in so many other situations. So I think that's one thing that we can do that can be very, very effective. The second thing we can do is relative to chemical abortions. Now, in the Obama administration, some 8 to 10 years ago, they changed the reporting requirements relative to RU 486, which is one, it's the abortifacient within the 2-dose regimen for chemical abortion. They changed the reporting requirements so that the only way that they report now, are required to report from a hospital or a clinic, is if the baby dies or the mother dies, not if they have a serious situation where it's an ectopic pregnancy. They go after the weekly deadline and they're too far along, the fallopian tube ruptures, and the lady dies. We have to, these abortions by chemical abortion are 4 times more dangerous than a surgical abortion. And yet you hear the abortionist talking about, well, they're always safe. So I think one thing we can do that can be done quite easily is to require reporting at least on an annual, if not semi-annual or quarterly basis, from all clinics and hospitals, because chemical abortions are now well over 60% of all abortions occurring, and they're going up from there. So I think these are some things that practically we can do at Texas to answer what's happened after the Dobbs decision.
Yeah, if anything, am I on? Okay. If anything keeps me up at night, it's abortifacients. It's the chemical abortion problem, because in a pregnancy resource center, we want FaceTime with that pregnant mom in that moment of fear to help alleviate that fear and to become a support system. But if we never know she's pregnant, and if she orders medications online that are then shipped to her home illegally from countries that are not regulated, and she takes that medication to miscarry in the privacy of her own bathroom, there's nothing we can do to help her. Until years later, when that comes to the surface, and then we have a generation of women who have endured this kind of horror in the privacy of their own bathrooms. So at Trotter House, we've joined an association through Hope Sync is what it's called, so that they can access nurses at a 24-hour hotline once immediately when they find out that they're pregnant, so that they can then get insight on what the next steps should be or who they could go see to talk this through before they make that decision. By the way, when you order medication online that is not overseen by a physician, you can lie about how far along you are. You can lie about the nature of your circumstances. You have not been seen by a medical professional. They do not know if you have an ectopic pregnancy, which will cause hemorrhaging and death. And if you think that those deaths are being reported or those visits to the emergency room are being reported, then you're gravely mistaken. They are not. And I'll also tell you that I was so pleased that we had a panelist yesterday from New Mexico, because I have heard that Planned Parenthood in New Mexico is so busy doing abortions for women from the state of Texas that they're not doing anything else but abortions for the women in the state of Texas. So we have seen a client in one of our centers. She came to us for a pregnancy test to get her proof of pregnancy, because you have to have that. We do it for free. All of our services are free. You have to do that before you can have an abortion. We did not know she took that proof of pregnancy. We thought it was to get government aid. She took it to Las Vegas, had an abortion. They sent her home, and because she could not afford to stay and to pay for the sonogram on the other side of that abortion to make sure that the child, all of it was removed, she came back to Trotter House to try to have another ultrasound to make sure that that abortion was successful. If we are for women's health care at Planned Parenthood, then you don't send someone off not knowing if you've successfully done their treatment. Fortunately, we caught that before she had that sonogram, so our poor staff was not traumatized by that experience. But those are the kinds of things that are happening. We had a 19-year-old young woman in our Cedar Park Center not long ago. Her grandmother was fighting for the life of the baby in her womb. So her grandmother was fighting for the life of her great-grandchild. This girl came in and said, "Abortion is not right, and it's not okay, but it's okay in my circumstance because this is going to affect my life." She did not know the prayers that were going up on her behalf. She had a sister in her corner that scheduled an appointment for her at a Planned Parenthood in New Mexico. So every time she came in to see us in our center, we were up against a sister that had already scheduled the appointment for the abortion. We got one extra visit out of her to have her sonogram, and she saw that baby. I'm really happy to tell you that the prayers of her grandmother were heard, that the prayers of our staff were heard, that the efforts of our staff were received, and she's now going to put that baby up for adoption. That baby's going to have life. But if you think that legislation changes the heart of women, you're wrong. This is not a political issue. This is a biblical issue. We have to capture the hearts of women. That's the work we all have to be participating in.
So,
the legislation's important, by the way. The legislation's so important.
So this is so important, what Stephanie just shared with us, because there is a false narrative with our friends, in our churches, in the Capitol. There is a false narrative right now that women in Texas are not thinking about abortion. I actually had a very high-ranked senator tell me that. Whenever she was talking about cutting funding for the Alternatives to Abortion program, she actually told me, abortion is illegal in Texas. We don't face that problem. Women aren't facing that problem anymore. And I was speechless. I didn't know what to say. And my first thing was, go talk to your pregnancy centers. Hear these stories. And so my point is we have to go fight this false narrative. And it's almost like we're back into the late 70s, where we have to convince our pastors that abortion is an issue, where we have to convince our friends abortion is actually an issue for us to pay attention to. It is almost like in this new chapter, we started over, and we now have to fight back that narrative of this is done, we can move on. And so it's extremely important. And I just want to give you kind of a scope. There is a study that just came out that estimates 19,000 orders from Texas have gone out to these websites for abortion pills. 19,000 in 1 year. We used to have 55,000 elective abortions reported in Texas before before the Texas Heartbeat Act. 19,000, and that doesn't count the activists who bring abortion pills physically over the southern border and distributing them in South Texas. That doesn't count that. That doesn't count the women that you're talking about who traveled to New Mexico or to Nevada. So when we think about what is the pro-life movement right now, yes, overturning Roe v. Wade was the big target. We were in the shadow of Roe v. Wade, and we really couldn't see past it. Now that is moved, we have a battle in front of us. And so I encourage all of you to hear Stephanie, the stories that she has. Look up this. My organization, we're tracking 26 illegal websites. And 26 websites, we're not just talking about abortion pills, where you can put in your credit card and order them. There have been good developments on the FDA case. That has nothing to do with this. Even if we win the FDA case and we actually get the abortion pills off the market in the United States, these websites don't care. They have already told the FDA that they have no jurisdiction over them because the doctor is in the Netherlands and the pharmacy that they use is in India. Their web servers are out of, actually one is in Ukraine that we were just investigating. And so they're outside of our jurisdiction. They don't care what the FDA says. So I'm kind of trying to raise this issue. This is a pressing issue, and this is our new assignment. And to deal with illegal abortions that are coming over the border, but also that are being mailed directly to women. And it's ending lives, and it's harming women. And college campuses, as you mentioned, college campuses are the front line. So I know a lot of you prayed outside of abortion clinics down off of 71 is the one closest to my house. The new sidewalk counselor has to be on college campuses. The new sidewalk counseling is happening at University of Texas, where those women are being targeted by these sites. Stickers up in their public bathrooms with QR codes that they scan and go directly to these illegal websites. Clinics, workers saying, well, just Google aid access and you can research it on your own, right? So I think there is a sense of urgency, as Stephanie mentioned, because before we figure this out, there are real lives at stake.
Commenting on what's happened at the John Paul II Life Center since Dobbs, we're up over 100% of women that are seeking information because they're abortion vulnerable. And out of that group, we've had 41 who've come in completely impoverished, no way to keep their apartment, no way to have transportation. So we assist them in that. And one in particular, it was just really amazing, the story that she told. And she was 4 months behind in rent. She was, I think, ended up being eight weeks pregnant. And we worked with her. We convinced her she shouldn't go ahead. Her family was trying to urge her to have an abortion, however she could get it. Her boyfriend had left her. 2 weeks pass, and we get her back again. She doesn't want to have them take her out of state. The boy then sees the sonogram, and I want to comment that every one of these women who are thinking they want to have a chemical abortion, if they don't have that sonogram, they are putting themselves at tremendous risk. But anyway, she has the sonogram. The boy is there, the boyfriend, and he sees the baby, sees it's a little boy, and he just breaks down in tears. And he says, "Thank goodness you didn't let my girlfriend leave and have an abortion, and I'm so terribly mad at myself." And he says, "I want to save that baby now, and I want to help them." So we started assisting them. From that point forward, they had the baby. The baby's done well. They've come. They've gotten material goods. 4 months later, or 6 months later, they came back and brought all the baby clothes that they had gotten at the center because he had outgrown them. They said, "We just want you to know, because of the help that you gave us now, just about a year in total time, we now are self-sufficient. We don't have to have any more help." So out of those 41 examples like that, 14 of them have come back and said, "We are self-sufficient." So when Senator Coldhorse says, "What are you doing about making people self-sufficient?" I did, because she's my senator. And I just want her to know that there are centers that are making a difference in the individual lives of people so that they can become self-sufficient, but they got to have a hand up instead of a handout.
Well, Stephanie, on the day of the 1-year anniversary of Dobbs, we came to the Trotter House and we did a tour and kind of a talk about where we're headed in the future of the pro-life movement. And you talked a little bit about the chemical abortion issue, but what else are we seeing now in the actually helping women making that decision after we have this decision of Dobbs?
It can go two ways. There is a greater complexity getting to the heart of the mom that finds herself in that circumstance. Generally, fear is the number one emotion that we're dealing with. Now we are dealing with fear and anger because she has been told by the media that a fundamental right that she has as a woman to terminate the life of her child has been taken away from her. So that's kind of the attitude that we meet when they first arrive in the center. But after a few minutes with an advocate, after talking through, taking that pregnancy test, after seeing that baby in that sonogram image, then there is generally always a softening. And then our job is to equip them with life skills classes, spiritual assessment work. We walk them through that experience. I know that a major complaint about pregnancy resource centers for people who have not been in a pregnancy resource center is that our number one goal is for that mom to choose life and then we abandon her. That is not the truth. Our goal is for that mom to choose life because that baby matters, but that woman matters too. And so, yes. So the work that we do is to hold her hand through the process. It's scary for any woman in any circumstance when she finds out that she's pregnant. It's especially scary when she doesn't have a support system around her that can help walk her through it. So we do provide that equipping through classes and experience, conversations with someone else as a mentor who has been a mom and who has walked this path before. I mean, we offer classes all the way up through financial planning, how to get a job, how to be a single mom, how to have a relationship, how to raise siblings. We walk them through the whole process, and then they can be a client until, as you were mentioning, they outgrow what we do and they are self-sufficient at some point.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I appreciate so much of what you and Mr. Van Dohlen do in the Pregnancy Resource Center and, doing outreach to these women. The past 2 years since we passed the heartbeat law, I've served on a board of a pro-life group here in Austin, making sure that we can connect the African-American community to these pregnancy resource centers and making sure that we're educating young women and men about these centers so they can know that these resources are available. So just last parting thoughts from all of you. What would you like to see and how we can be more active now that we have a pro-life Texas?
I think the overarching theme yesterday, let me circle back around to what you were saying about educating the African-American community. 76% of Planned Parenthoods were established in African-American communities in America. So we do need to be doing that outreach and drawing them in, encouraging them to come in, that we could also minister to them and encourage them to save the babies in their wombs as well. That's so important. Just so we all are aware that that was a targeted demographic in the plan for what has come to pass in America. I think the overarching theme yesterday was courage. You were asked several times to have courage, not to leave it to the people on this stage to do the work, but to go out, to be an ambassador for Christ, to take this biblical cause and with loving kindness, share the truth with your neighbors. The duty of an intelligent and a faithful person is to state the truth, to state the obvious, and then to restate it, and to restate it, and to restate it. Not just to presume that we're all on the same page, because I don't know if you watch the news, but I'm not sure what book we're reading anymore. We are not on the same page. So we all are called to participate in life, to participate in our communities, and to encourage those around us to speak the truth with love, but to speak the truth. Stand, be bold, have courage. We need your help. We need you to tell that mom that finds herself in an unplanned pregnancy situation, go to Trotter House, go to JPII. We know someone who can help you through this. The life of that child matters, and you matter too, but we cannot do it by ourselves. Community awareness is our greatest challenge, so please take this message and spread it around in your sphere of influence. Tell everybody you know there is help around the corner.
So I just ask for a moment. I think my wife, Patricia, is there. Pat, if you would, please stand up. So Pat and I have been doing this together, thank goodness, since actually while we were on our honeymoon now, almost 18 years ago, coming across the Golden Gate Bridge, we decided whatever we were going to do, we were going to do together, and we actually found the model of what our center's floor plan is at a Seton clinic that was there in California. But I've been blessed to be on this journey with Pat. We even wrote a book called In Life, the Journey's Everything, to give people hope when they have tragedy in life. And truly, these women who go through abortions or don't have assistance that the Trotter House and JPII and the assistance you can have from Texas Right to Life, they're in a tragic situation, and so they need psychological assistance, they need emotional assistance. And I think if those of you are here, if you're here with your husband or wife, if you're here just one of you, part of that courage comes in being active together and being bold to speak up to people in your church, people outside your church, and let your message be heard, because the other side's speaking up. And they're capturing the minds of young people, and we can't let that happen. We've got an obligation to help this next generation be able to have what we've had as the tradition in America. So I ask you to please do your part. Let's all be one in helping others to see how important this issue is.
Yeah. I think about what the Apostle Paul wrote to Timothy in the book 2 Timothy. He tells him to fulfill his ministry. And as a pro-life movement, our ministry is not fulfilled yet. We are not done. We still have women that are facing these issues. We still have organizations and activists that are breaking our laws. And so we still have work to do. So first of all, support your pregnancy center. Find out what pregnancy center is closest to your neighborhood, closest to your church. Go. They need your help. They need to be fully funded. They need to be fully staffed, and they need to have volunteers that are there around the clock to help them. And so support your pregnancy centers. We're trying to do that. Right now, we are watching the commission, the Health Commission in Texas, because they are looking for an excuse to cut funding to these centers. So that false narrative I talked about, it's not just with the legislators, it's with the bureaucrats. And they are looking for any excuse to refocus the program. And so we're going to watch that. We may need your help. We may need to call them out and to have some calls to action to tell the health commissioner not to ruin our pro-life program that funds so many pregnancy centers around the state. So we have to do that. We also have to go after the enemy. The enemy is being clever. They're coming new strategies with these websites, with these activists. And so we have some litigation in the works. We have some attacks where we want to go after them, right? Other states are not able to do this. They're focused on playing defense. We need to do that. And at Texas Right to Life, we're looking at legislation and litigation and some other strategies of how do we fight back against this new pro-death movement that's happening through these illegal websites. And so we have to go. And so you can learn more about that at Texas Right to Life. And then, sorry, Jonathan, just for a shameless plug, next weekend, I've got to do it. Next weekend, we're having our Life Gala in Houston. Kirk Cameron's going to be there. We're going to be talking about this more specifically of what Texas Right to Life has in the books. We have some great announcements. So if you're going to be in Houston next weekend, our Life Gala. Thanks, Jonathan, for letting me do that. But still, also pray. Our legislators need wisdom. Our health commissioners need wisdom. Our pro-life organizations and our counselors need wisdom. We're in a new chapter, and our ministry is not yet fulfilled.
All right, thank you so much for sharing with us today. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists.